have one slide to show you. Can you hear me in the back without the microphone? Yeah? Okay. So I'm not going to use it. Okay, so I think Yonatan provided a nice, actually everyone did, but Yonatan provided a nice introduction to what I'm going to talk about. So we have the legal scholars. I'm putting you in that category too. Okay, so I'll be the economist here. And as economists, we do actually try to do exactly what you talked about, Yonatan, which is to say, what can we learn from the empirical work? Now, you were right. You said there's a lot of standard-setting organizations. Does anyone know how many? Yeah, more than 1,000. There was about 900 in 2013, about 1,100 today, and that's just the ones we know about. So there's a ton of them. It used to be something that was pretty much ignored by the literature, but one thing that's really great is data are available from all of these standard-setting organizations, and a lot of it is even on the internet. And God forbid people even try to analyze the performance of some of these standard-setting organizations. And I will talk about that a little bit.
I wonder who.
Not me? Okay. Well, in an indirect way, David did so and I did. But in any case, first of all, standards are a big deal. I mean, IBM spent like $500 million just participating in standard committees in 2003, so who knows what it is today. Sun had a vice president for standards, and they, among other big firms, participated more than 150 of these SSOs. So these SSOs are really important, and as you said, these are really the way that standards get set now. Okay, so given all of that, is there any empirical evidence that standard-setting organizations are working? And the question is, can we say something? I mean, has the literature said anything about it? So, where is this thing? It's probably a cheat to put this slide up here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so Pierre Gerbeau and I were asked to write about the performance of standard-setting organizations, and the first thing we wanted to do was we wanted to say, well, what criteria can we judge standard-setting organizations? And we came up with 4 criteria. The first 2 are just how good are the standardization organizations working? In other words, do they pick the best technologies? Okay, are they timely? Of course, you might ask timely with regard to what? Okay, those are the 2 things about do they absolutely perform well. And then the third and fourth areas are kind of like the competitive policy concerns that we have. In other words, look at how the standards affect competition in the market downstream. Do we have problems? You mentioned it, Yonatan. Hold up, hold out. How do things affect innovation? And you guys brought up a lot of cases, and you did too. These papers that are up here, and of course I can supply this slide, because you really have to have good eyes to see it. But what we decided to do was, first of all, we defined these 4 criteria to judge standard-setting organizations, and then we said, is there any evidence? Okay? And I'm not going to go through all of this, obviously, because it's, you guys are probably bored and you'll be checking your cell phones. But I would just go through a little bit and say that, there's been a lot of really great work in this area. This is just updated till 2013 or 2014, and since then, there's even been a lot of additional work. But we do have some direct and indirect tests about whether standard-setting organizations are picking the best standards, and the evidence is mixed. But the nice thing is it's just not based on a single case, but this is based on, for example, this paper by Reisman and Simcoe is based on an examination of all say, standard essential patents in many, many different standard organizations. Timeliness is a little bit more difficult, but just turning to what you talked about, hold up and exclusion, there are a couple papers that actually do take a look at that, and I think that's nice. And you can say that, okay, it's still that these are just this is empirical work, but there is some evidence. Of course, the right experiment has never been done. But there is some evidence in some of these papers that hold up might be going on. Again, I don't want to provide the detail, but these are not just case studies. So these papers are empirical studies of many industries. Some of them are case studies, very good case studies like Lamp and Moser, back in when patent pools and these whatever they were acceptable, or were not patent cartels or whatever were legal. And then finally, and again you guys touched on this as well, is what is the SSO SSO performance on innovation. And again, there's a little bit of data. I'll just tell you one little piece of evidence because it's something that I worked on. So anyway, a long time ago, I worked with David Jenisov and somebody else in network management, and we looked at actually one standard committee. Now the wonderful thing was there was this person by the name of Ken Kretschmer. Does anyone remember him or know him? He's Mr. Standard Setting, okay, in the sense that what did he do? He worked for firms who wanted to get their patents into the standard. And so that was his main job, but his side job was that he would report on all these standard meetings, which are probably kind of boring, but, I never went to too many of them. But the good thing is he listed every single member that attended all these standard organization meetings. So, for example, we picked just one simple technology, modems, back then when they were only analogs, because we wrote this a long time ago, and basically we could look at participation, okay? We could look at participation in the meetings, who's participating, and we could also look at the patents and citations held by these firms. And then we asked ourselves the question, does participation lead to additional future patents or citations? Okay, and on the flip side, do patents and citations lead to participating in the meeting? So the first question, we found out the answer is yes. Participation does lead to more patents in the future and citations, but the reverse is not true. Okay, the reverse is not true. And then the question is, what does that say about innovation? Does it say anything about it? Well, actually, it does say, there's three interpretations to these results. One is that firms use these meetings to get their patents into the standard. Okay, this is the Ken Kretschmer effect, and we know that's true, and that's a strategic effect, so that's not something really good. Unless it happens that they have the ideal patent for the standard. And the second thing is that firms are learning from the inside information in these SSO meetings and using this to strategically advance their IP portfolios, which also isn't too great. The third possible explanation is there's knowledge diffusion. We're all citing each other. There's spillovers going on. Okay, this is just one example. We went through all the empirical work that is. I would say probably Tim Simcoe is the leader in this area, and there's fantastic work being done because almost, as you mentioned, hundreds of thousands of documents. Every single thing that happens at these meetings are documented. And we really need more work, but I really think that we could use these criteria. We could really see if, instead of like a case-by-case method, could we say something more than that? Okay, could we put it together more than that? And could we see whether SSOs affect, first of all, how do they perform? Timeliness is the hardest thing, of course, probably. But then the question is, are there these competitive policy concerns? And I think this is an area where legal scholars and economists could get together. But the data are available. I think we want to get more audience questions, so I'll just cut off.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question for